There are multiple ways to throw every pitch, especially changeups. Changeups and splitters, I would say there's the most options for grips compared to any other pitch. Your other pitches, your curveballs, your sliders, your fastballs, there's really only a few grips with slight iterations or changes to those pitches. Changeups and splitters, like there's really an infinite way to throw these pitches. Today, I want to talk about one grip that I absolutely love. I've shared it with you guys before, but today I want to do a little bit of a breakdown where I'm walking through the grip as well as showing edgertronic footage of me throwing it so you can understand what I'm feeling, what I'm trying to do to create the movement that I'm getting. And this is a grip that I'm using with a lot of players right now because truthfully, it's working for almost everyone, no matter what their arm slot is. It's working for guys with lower slots, and it's also working for guys with higher slots. And that's what's making this grip so intriguing to me is because a lot of changeups, guys will drop their slots a little bit. They'll try to do something funky and to lower it a little bit to create the movement, to force the movement. The beauty of this grip is really you just throw it like a fastball, and regardless of your slot, we're going to find a way to kill some depth and get a lot of movement on this pitch relative to your fastball. So this one is me throwing at -9 VB. -9 is a crazy amount of depth. I've gotten that with a couple other grips, or mainly one other grip, the kick change. So the kick change, just as a refresher, is where you're spiking your middle finger. It's a two-seam variation. For me, I'm using seam effects by having a little bit of a supinated release with that pitch to create the movement that I wanted. This is the only other grip that I've been able to replicate that depth with that I'm going to show you here in a second. And for me, this one is actually easier to do. I'm able to be more consistent with it because there's less thinking involved. With the kick change, I would have to kind of focus on a couple cues, and if I went at a really high intent, I would cut it a little bit too much. This one is a little bit more easy to be consistent with, at least for me. And I've also been able to, implement this with a lot of other guys and get the same results. So the grip that I am referring to is this change up here. It's a change up or splitter. Honestly, kind of depends on who throws it. When I throw it, it's not really a low spin rate pitch. It's kind of just an average change up spin. It'll be in the 15 to 1600 RPM range. While I've also had some guys throwing this in the triple digits as low as 600 RPM. So it kind of just depends on the guy and how they release it exactly. You can call it whatever you want. I like to bucket splitters and changeups into the same category though personally. So for this one, we're gonna have three fingers together in between these seams. So you can see I'm in between this seam here. I'm also in between this seam here. It's really important that the fingers are staying together. If you've never thrown a pitch like this where your fingers are together, the tendency is gonna be for them to separate, especially the middle finger climbing up over here. You wanna do your best to have them together. Then the index finger, we are going to curl over this seam. And this is really important. For me, when I throw this pitch, if that index finger is too flat, so I'm trying to show you the best angle here. If it's too flat like this and I have it too deep in my hand or I'm trying to split them too much, the ball tends to stick in my hand and it comes out too much like a fastball and I have too much backspin on the ball. The cue for me that I really try to think about is staying loose with my grip, or as loose as I can while still having a decent amount of split, but also being able to curl this index finger a little bit. And when I say curl, I'm literally only thinking about the tip of my index finger just slightly turning in. So I'm not trying to do this big move with my index finger to where it's coming way down here like a circle change. It's literally just a very subtle curl. So the tip of that finger is just curling just a little bit. And the finishing touch is to make sure that it is relaxed, that my hand is relaxed. And from there, I just try to throw this like a fastball. I'll have some guys that will try to throw it through the split. So they're trying to throw like a fastball between this finger and this finger. They're just throwing it through there. Other guys will think about throwing a fastball off of these three fingers. So they're getting more through it this way. For me, I honestly, it's somewhere in between there. I'm not completely trying to go through the split. I'm not completely trying to go through the three fingers. I'm just thinking fastball. It's as simple as that. I'm going to throw it like a fastball. I'm going to stay loose. I'm going to let it rip and let the ball do what it needs to do. So now let's look at some of this footage. I apologize for the flickering. Just the lights aren't the best for the edger, so it does flicker a little bit, but you can still get an idea of what's going on here. So coming back to this index finger, right? The index finger is slightly curled, it's loose, and the benefit of that is it doesn't get stuck like that other way I showed you where if the finger was straight, sometimes it'll get stuck. This allows that index finger to slip off of the ball. So we can see right here, it is starting to slip, and it's now getting to the middle finger as the last finger, but the middle finger at this point is on the side of the ball, and all it's doing is just swiping across the side of the ball, allowing us to get this bare part of the ball. So right here, and for those of you that have been following me for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of dot balls. This is the position of where that dot would be on your baseball. We want that to be spinning cleanly, slightly facing us the entire time. The more on top of the ball it is, the more depth it's going to have. And we can see as this one leaves my hand, we are seeing that part of the baseball the entire time. And truthfully, this is one of the lower efficiency ones that I've thrown. So this was 62% efficiency. I even had some during this day that were in the 50s that were still getting the depth and still getting enough horizontal on it as well. This can work, truthfully, I would say on average from about, high 50s, so let's just say 58%, all the way up into the 80s and be really, really effective. So this is going to work for a multitude of guys, regardless of your supination or pronation bias. So we can see, once again, it slips off. Middle finger kicks that ball sideways and allows it to take off. And because of the way the seams are oriented with that bare part of the ball facing us, it just absolutely nosedives straight down, which is exactly what we're looking for. So this grip takes some time to get used to. You're going to want to play with it. You're going to want to experiment with it to figure out exactly what you need to do. Everyone's hand size is slightly different. Like I have some guys that have tinkered with coming a little bit further out here, and their index finger as a result ends up getting a little bit outside that seam, but for them, it allows them to get the movement that they're looking for. So there isn't one way to do this. To figure out what works for you to create the movement that we're looking for, and just understand that you want that bare part of the ball to be facing you, or slightly facing you, I should say, and as much on top of the ball as you can, and that's going to allow it to get the movement that you're looking for. And then lastly, the thumb position. I didn't talk about the thumb at all, but for me, my thumb is pretty much right underneath. So you can see I'm not way up here to where the index finger is touching it. It's pretty much directly underneath the ball, on the bare part of the ball next to that seam right there. And that just for me is comfortable. You can play with that as well. I will say the guys that get too high with that thumb, it does kind of impact the way the ball spins. So try it initially at least to have that thumb underneath. If you have any questions, I would love to hear your feedback. Feel free to drop a comment below.